Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabha. Hello everyone. So today I feel like talking about how to deal with greed. So greed, anger, ignorance are known as the three poisons, the three mental defilements that keep us trapped in the cycle of samsara, the cycle of reincarnation. And particularly greed, like the Buddha said in the Four Noble Truths, craving or desire is indeed the root of suffering. So which is our greed. Greed is really the root of suffering. Right? When we are too greedy towards something, and if we don't get it, we're going to be upset. And not getting what one wants will also cause suffering. So it's important that we can actually manage our desire, manage our greed. But as ordinary beings in the desire realm, so we talked about before how the human realm also belongs to the desire realm. The 6 realms of reincarnation can also be divided into the triple realms, the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. And the human realm belongs to the desire realm. So typically, beings who are in the desire realm will have greed towards the 5 things, which are money, lust, fame, food, and sleep. So as ordinary unenlightened beings, we're going to have some degree of greed towards these 5 things. Or maybe not all the 5 things, depending on the person. And the degree can also vary depending on the person. But we're still going to have some degree of desire towards maybe these 5 things. If you are an unenlightened being, or even if you are the very baby steps in enlightenment, you can still have the desire for lust, which we talked about before in the video about lust. So today let's look at the other 4 things that we ordinary unenlightened beings can be attached to, such as money and fame. Money or power is such a big thing in the conventional world, in the materialistic world. People are so crazy about these things that they may work their entire life to gain them. But just remember that whatever that we possess, whether it's money or power, they will not be long lasting. They may last while you're here, but they're all impermanent. When we leave this world, we cannot take any penny with us. We cannot take anything with us, so all is impermanent. In Buddhism we call this like illusions. All are illusions. Illusions doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but it exists only temporarily. Like the bubbles, they exist but only temporary, and then in one instant it can just vanish. So whatever that we possess, do not be too attached. That's why it's not good to be too attached to money or to fame, to power. All these things can just be gone in 1 second when impermanence hits. The impermanence can also take form in all kinds of ways that we just never know. So I'm not saying that money is not good. Money is good in some ways if you know how to use it for good causes. But it's not good to be too attached to money, to material possessions, and also to fame, due to the impermanent nature in it. Also emptiness in nature that is changing all the time. Maybe today you make a lot of money, and then tomorrow it's possible that you can also lose a lot. So it's not good to be too attached to money, to material possessions, to fame, to power, all these impermanent things. So how to deal with our greed for money? Practicing generosity is also a great way to deal with greed. So to give to others of what we have, to share with others of what we have, can also help us to manage our greed. And also remember we talk about if you want more, actually give more. Practicing generosity can also increase our blessings. And our blessings may not necessarily take the form of money or wealth, but it can increase our blessings in the future. So practicing generosity really has a lot of benefits. It can help you to manage your greed, your desire, your craving, and it can also help you increase your blessings. And how about fame? How to deal with fame, particularly if you're someone very famous, everyone knows about you. So it's actually not so ideal to be too famous because everywhere you go, then people follow you, and you don't really have your freedom. Everyone knows what you're up to, what you're doing. Some people may stalk you, and all this troubles for someone who is very famous. And if you are someone who is very famous, then also important to practice humility, to keep a humble attitude. And don't think that you are too famous, because fame is also like impermanent. When impermanence comes, all this fame, all this money, all this power, they will just be gone in one instant, like illusions. So do not be too attached to fame either. And how about food and sleep? So these are really big ones. Particularly food, may be very difficult to get rid of. Very difficult to let go of our attachment to good food. And when we see good food, maybe we want to eat more. We're craving for good food. Even as a vegetarian, one can also have craving for like really delicious vegetarian food. But think about the consequences of overeating. If I'm aware I have greed for like really delicious food, I just think about the consequences of overeating, and that will manage my craving. So if we overeat whatever delicious food it is, we can be too full, and the feeling of too full is actually not good. You cannot really sleep at night. Sometimes it can make you become restlessness, and also it can lead to obesity, and a lot of diseases actually came from eating, came from also overeating. So we don't want to overeat. Everything in moderation, even if it's like the most delicious food. And also sleep. It's actually not good to oversleep. It's important that we get a good amount of sleep, but not to oversleep. Oversleeping can lead to drowsiness, laziness, and one can feel really unproductive. If one become drowsy and one sleep too much and one become lazy, and a lot of time in a day that you just waste on sleeping, then you cannot really do other things. So it's also not good to oversleep. So in general, everything in moderation. But when we are aware that we have this kind of craving, this kind of desire, this kind of greed, you can also recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, to Nianfo, to help transform your greed towards the name of Amitabha Buddha, towards infinite light and life. To remind yourself that everything is within you. There is no need for you to seek outside, to be greedy towards all these things. When you have a craving for good food, Amitofo, 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 to manage your craving. When you feel maybe you sleep too much, you feel really drowsy, also Amitofo, 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 to help you gain the clarity for your mind. So just remember everything in moderation and practice the middle way, and not to indulge too much in desire, and also not to starve yourself on the other hand. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabhaya.